Good morning. Welcome to Sunday morning, October 3rd, and we do start into a new line of devotions today. And it is a book put out by Plow Publishing. It's entitled Following the Call, Living the Sermon on the Mount Together. Following the Call, Living the Sermon on the Mount Together. And it's going to go through all the different sections. First section we're in starting today, and will be for a bit, is Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 through 16, where obviously we find the Beatitudes plus some other teaching. Many different authors and writers have been plucked and selected to give comment on these different sections of the Sermon on the Mount. Names you might recognize: Augustine of Hippo from way back in church history, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, Timothy Keller, more current, Martin Luther King Jr., C.S. Lewis, Dorothy Sayers, N.T. Wright, Leo Tolstoy, and it has an even bigger list on the front cover, and then it says, and 94 others. So it's quite a wide selection of thought, and I think that's really good for Christians, to have a wide selection of thought as opposed to just settling in on your one or two favorites that you always listen to. Diversity is good, and some things we may not agree with, but we'll know about the thought and make us search, make us dig. Why don't I agree with that? What do I really believe about it? And I hope that this book will do that for us. It's going to be a challenging book. I'll tell you that right now. Just that list of names should give you a heads up. These are tough writers. These are people that are very blunt in speaking the truth at times. And that's good. We need to be challenged. But living the Sermon on the Mount together, because we're a community. Christians are a community. The church, the local church, is a community. There's quite a bit of lead in here, an introduction. We're not obviously going to be dwelling on that, but I'm sure the thoughts will come back throughout our readings. And so it's separated into parts, and part one of this book is Kingdom Character. Kingdom Character. I'm simply going to read an opening overview of the book so we get a sense of where we're headed. I anticipate that these devotions will keep themselves, obviously, except for today while I'm yakking so much here. But I want you to understand where we're headed with this. Hopefully these are going to be a bit shorter than the last book, which sometimes went 7-8 minutes. And today, just to get us a sense, a taste of where we're headed, I'm going to read the overview, which is just one page long, as well as an opening quote opposite that page by Eberhard Arnold, who has been involved with Plow and the communities of Plow for many, many years. He says this: the Beatitudes cannot be taken apart. They portray the heart of the people of the kingdom, a heart whose veins cannot be dissected and pulled to pieces. Because of this, the Beatitudes begin and end with the same promise of possessing the kingdom of heaven. Those who are blessed are characterized by their poverty and neediness, longing, hunger, and thirst. At the same time, they possess wealth in love, energy for peace, and victory over all resistance. These are people of inner vision who see the essential. They bear the world's suffering. Again, that's Eberhard Arnold. So the overview of where we're headed with this book. The Beatitudes are a summary of the entire sermon shorthand for what is to come. They describe Jesus himself, who is poor in spirit, a mourner, meek and lowly, hungry for righteousness, merciful, pure in heart, and a peacemaker who suffers for the right. And they depict the character of those who strive to follow Jesus. The Beatitudes show the effect God's kingdom has upon anyone who submits to Christ's rule. With familiarity, the Beatitudes may have lost their original shock value. It's as if Jesus were to say to us today, blessed are the ugly, the deformed, the repulsive. Blessed are the dropouts, the losers, the abandoned, the incurably ill. And in a world that prizes a trouble-free life, Jesus tells his disciples to rejoice in their own persecution. But is it not the rich who are blessed, the carefree who are happy, the assertive and aggressive who get ahead? Doesn't the quote-unquote good life consist of getting what you want? Not according to Jesus. To be meek, poor in spirit, merciful, and peace-loving is the key to happiness. Appearances to the contrary, the poor in spirit, those who mourn, those who thirst and hunger for righteousness, are already experiencing God's kingdom. Through such people, God can work and accomplish his will. They, not the religious elite or the powerful or the highly esteemed, play the decisive role in God's redemptive history. Such a life will invariably look foolish. Nevertheless, the Beatitudes are a declaration that a certain way of being leads to human flourishing. Jesus assures us that following him, that living as citizens of God's kingdom, will not be in vain. His disciples are on the path that leads to life. There is a book I have read. It's entitled The Upside Down Kingdom, and that's what the Lord's kingdom is. It's completely upside down to everything our world and our culture tells us is where happiness is and where self-value and self-worth is. It's not a philosophy. It's a way of life. Hopefully this is the longest one we'll have as we go through this series, just getting you set up for what lies ahead. I hope you want to be challenged. I hope you want to hear the truth of the way of the Christian life, the way of following Jesus. Blessings to you today. Worship the Lord in spirit and truth.